Welcome, everyone, to Sports Church Daily, presented by the Bears Casino. Ronnie Rantz here with you alongside TK Tommy Krysan as he is at Court Street Cafe in the heart of downtown Port Allen, just across the Mississippi River Bridge. I'm at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and LASportsHall.com. You can check out and sign up for the Celebrity Golf Tournament a week from today at the University Club Golf Course in Baton Rouge. It's a little chilly today. I think the temperature is going to get down to the low 30s tonight. But next Monday, temperatures are going to be 79, 80 degrees by the football game at LSU Arkansas on Saturday. And next Monday, temperatures will be in the 70s. So get great golf weather. Absolutely perfect golf weather. And we hope to see you and join us at the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame Celebrity Golf Tournament next Monday.
By the way, I'm going to play golf this Thursday in Franklinton, Louisiana. I used to be a member there, and I ran into an old friend, and we're going to go play next Thursday. The weather's supposed to be perfect Thursday, so not that has anything to do with your golf tournament, but people need to go to LASportsHall.com.
What course you playing?
It's Franklinton Country Club. I was a member there for 5 or 6 years back in the day. Little old small course. It's cool. Got some tough holes, some easy holes, and it's in great shape according to my friends. So I've played many a round of golf there, so I'm curious to the effect of the trees are going to be bigger, taller, different, whatever. Because I literally have not played golf there in over 10 years. And I used to play twice a week up there. Mm-hmm. So looking forward to a little trip up to Franklinton Demon Country.
All right, TK. This weekend, LSU, I guess, put up a little bit of a fight. They lose 20-9. They did not cover. It's amazing how the wise guys hit it right on the number, huh? It was 9.5 to 11, 9.5 to 10.5 was the line throughout the week. It went off as LSU being a 10.5 point dog. They lose by 11, and should have covered. It was a situation where one drop pass really, I think, changed the outcome of whether you covered or not. And then the Saints won. Saints are now 2-8, 10 games into the season. The Saints won. They beat the Carolina Panthers on the road 17-7. They were a 5.5 point dog, won that game. Now they have 7 games left. Ronnie Rantz needs them to go 1-6 to cash both checks, both tickets that I have, which is under 5.5 wins and under 3.5 wins. So we're looking for a 1-6 finish. I need Tyler Shuck to maybe strain something because he played pretty well, Tommy.
Yeah, he got good numbers, a high quarterback rating, and he got a win. His first win as a starting quarterback, and I kind of thought it would be a low scoring game. I didn't think the Saints would win. I bet the Panthers. I had Panthers minus 5.5, so that did not work out. But I thought the uniforms looked great for the Saints. I like that all white look. I liked it when LSU's done it once or twice. But hey, it's a win for the Saints. Now they have an open date before hosting Todd McClure's Atlanta Falcons. Todd went to Germany to see the Falcons play. So I guess he could make it to New Orleans to see the Falcons play if he can go to Berlin, right?
Well, he didn't have to pay for anything to go to Germany. He was a guest of the Falcons, and he went a long way to watch them blow another lead in epic Atlanta fashion, and they ended up losing to the Colts after having a lead in most of that game. All right, let's actually yesterday, Tommy, also I went and watched LSU Southeastern and a little baseball action. I saw a few innings, talked to a few former Rougarou players. Southeastern's peppered with them. Saw DJ Primo's family as well, former Baton Rouge Rougarou playing for LSU. Quick little takeaways. LSU offense was not the best day for them. 18 innings. They scored 9 runs, but 7 of that was in the first game. And I want to say 4 of that came in the 9th inning of the first game. Didn't have a lot of hits. So offensively, a little surprised to see in 18 innings that they didn't put up more base hits against the Lions. I guess credit their pitchers. LSU on the bump took care of business. I think they gave up 2 runs in the first game and 1 run in the second game. So I think 3 runs total they gave up, I believe, in 18 innings. So they looked the part.
They had a lot of punch outs too. Didn't they strike out 28 in 18 innings? So that a lot of swinging and missing in November.
The one thing that I'm curious about for this LSU baseball lineup, and we're a little under 100 days away from the start of the season, and we'll talk obviously more when the calendar turns to January, but is where that scary bopper in the middle comes from, right? You had that guy the last few years at LSU. Where's that home run threat? Where's that guy that, man, he just seems to always come through? I think they have good hitters. I think they have good players. And Curriell and Brown and Stanfield, the veteran outfield is what you're going to rely on. Milam in his third year at shortstop should have some big hits. But where's that big bopper first baseman, DH type?
Might might it be John Pearson?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just curious. I'm just
I don't think
asking.
so. I haven't seen that kind of move from him. So again, I think it may be, and the one thing that Jay Johnson and LSU baseball has shown that they're willing to play different types of ways, right? They're willing to
Yeah,
not run, but then run, and then they're not willing to not bunt, and then they bunt. And so the good news is that I think Jay will adapt to whatever his talents are and whatever his skill set is. And if all of a sudden they're a team that can bunt and run more than another, they'll do that. But I think you're going to see you got 3 more months to try to figure out your staff, your lineup, and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like they're missing that one, the intimidating or presence in the middle of their lineup, that one or two impressive. So we'll just see how that ends up playing out. All right, TK, let's go back to LSU football. They not only do they lose, but they bench Garrett Nussmeier in the third quarter. That has caused all kinds of controversy. We don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be on Saturday at 11:45 against Arkansas. That is to be determined, and I imagine once the quarterback is announced, it could potentially affect the point spread.
yeah, I would agree. I would choose a 5.5 point favorite over and under 56.5. That's a big number. I know Arkansas has been in some high scoring games this year, and where both teams scored high points, but LSU's offense is just it's in a rut. It's not working, and so we'll see. But if Van Buren is named the starter, and Coach Wilson will meet with the media today, I'm sure he's going to get the question, and he may say we'll let you know later in the week. Who knows how he's going to handle that? But that's certainly a question mark for that 11:45 kickoff Saturday. Ronnie, I've been saying this. If back in August I'd have told you, Ronnie, LSU is going to play Arkansas in the middle of November, and it's going to be an 11:45 kickoff, and both teams are going to have interim head coaches. You might have said, TK, you've been at the Jefferson Lounge too long.
And if you just said Michael Van
And
Buren's going to be the starting quarterback, I'd be like, oh, Nussmeier must have got hurt, huh? No, you know. Yeah. Let me say this about Nussmeier. The thing that is so shocking for me about him is the terrible mechanics that he has, right? And and what I mean by that is because he's a guy who's got an NFL offensive coordinator coach, right? His dad played in the league. You would think his mechanics would be Drew Brees spot on type, and instead it's not. And I think that is just as much to do with his problems as anything. Besides the fact that he just naturally has that terrible sidearm motion, which is not conducive in the NFL. It's good if you're able to do it when you need to, and you're Mahomes and you're Russian. But like, but the watch the footwork. The footwork is atrocious. I mean,
right,
atrocious. And and for whatever reason, he's not having a good enough year to get away with it. He has always had that footwork. And you'd always want to hope it's going to get better. Next year, it's going to get better. Yeah, this offseason is going to work on his footwork. It's going to get better. And I don't know if it's because of the injury or what, but it's lazy. It's not correct. I mean, it'd be like throwing a baseball. If imagine you're a shortstop, the balls hit the ground balls hit to you at shortstop, and when you throw the ball to first base, right, your momentum's got to go towards the bag at first base. You got to close up your front side and drive that shoulder towards first base. You got your heel with your feet. You got to get your feet sideways and turn. You got to get your body turned and moving in the direction of first base. Nussmeier is the guy who hits the ground ball to short, and all his motion's going towards second base, but yet he's throwing to first base, and he does this over and over and over again. And then he just doesn't have good feel in the pocket. You saw Wilson get on him. You can't go backwards in those situations. He's taking big giant sacks, losing yardage, and going backwards when you don't have enough speed to go backwards. If he's not going to be able to run and get out and move away, then throw it away. He's got to have that internal clock to where Okay, I got this amount of time to throw the football. As I feel the pressure, if there's not an obvious release, then throw the ball over the head of a receiver. And you would think those things would be there by now. They're not. And it just seems he seems like a little bit of a know-it-all, you know what I mean? Like, when the coaches are yelling at him or talking to him, he doesn't oftentimes look them in the eye. That drives me insane. We saw him
Right.
throw his helmet in disgust when Brian Kelly pulled him at the last game. Those types of things used to get you benched. When you showed up a coach like that or threw a temper tantrum. Now it's just part of football. And again, let's remember, these are not college players. These are professionals. There's no difference between an NFL player for the New Orleans Saints and Garrett Nussmeier. There's no difference between Tyler Shuck and Garrett Nussmeier. In fact, if Garrett Nussmeier was a fifth round pick, he'd be making. I mean, if Shuck was a fifth round pick like Rattler, he'd be making less money than Nussmeier's making this year. So, it's okay to be critical of him, especially a guy who's been there for 5 years and leveraged LSU to the tune of $2 million or whatever this season. So, and to play like that, I mean, come on, brutal.
Well, I'll tell you this: the eyeball test by many people have made this comment to me from Saturday night. Van Buren's got a much better arm right now than Nussmeier does. He had zip on the ball, as a tighter spiral, whatever you want to say. And Nussmeier, for some reason, has not been able to throw the ball down the field effectively at all, or even try to throw it down the field. So there's a lot of issues. I think there's a bunch of layers here, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's the mechanics of throwing the football that have just gotten out of whack. I don't know what Frank Wilson's going to do in terms of who's going to start this week. I'm curious, and we'll find out when we find out. But they very likely could be Nussmeier in August, Heisman Trophy contender, team on playoff hopes, and now he's benched for a team that's in 10th place in the SEC. It's crazy.
I've talked, Tommy, to lots of people that have been out at practice a lot in the August and in September and all that sort of thing, and they all say that Nussmeier is head and shoulders above the second and third string quarterbacks as far as accuracy and all that goes. Van Buren, he throws the ball hard, but he doesn't. It's like he doesn't necessarily know where it's going. But I would say this. Is Nussmeier have more talent? Does he have the more ability? Yes, but for the college football game, where it's clear LSU's offensive line is not that good. Okay, that's not Nussmeier's fault. It's just the facts. It is what it is. And for Nussmeier to want to drop back there, stand in the pocket, and have 3 seconds to throw the football, this is not an offensive line that can do that. Okay, so it's not his fault, but you may be better off either 50-50 or going with Van Buren only because Nussmeier is clearly not healthy. His mechanics are horrible. His mental is horrible. And it ain't working out, and you can't just keep doing, if it's broke, just going in the same direction. And so I'm not saying Van Buren's going to be the answer, but you know what? At least he's got some sort of ability that Nussmeier doesn't have, and he has the ability to run. And Nussmeier does not. And in this day and age of college football, look, you can have a running quarterback who primarily does that. And look at Pavia. The guy's not going to play in the NFL at quarterback, but because he can run and he's tough and he makes good decisions and he's got big stones, they're able to win, and he's got great leadership skills. And so I'm not saying Van Buren's Pavia. I'm saying what you're doing ain't working. You're 5-4. You got 3 games left. None of these. I mean, Wilson ain't gonna be the head coach. That went out the window when you got beat by Alabama. So let's change it up and let's go with a guy who at least is doing what the coaches asked him to do without the attitude.
Yeah, I agree completely. And LSU could lose the next 3 games. I mean, anything can happen in that Arkansas game this week. And if LSU can't score in Arkansas, Western Kentucky's a decent team coming in here in a couple of weeks. I think they're 7-2, got a decent record. I'd have to look that up. And then you got to go to Oklahoma. So, I mean, who's a pretty good team. So they could lose out and would not even be bowl eligible then. I mean, it's crazy of what has happened. But the big picture of the program, it's been fractured severely. And then, of course, the coach changed, the AD changed, the president changed. It's just crazy days at LSU, as they say.
All right, talk about the New Orleans Saints for a minute. TK, the New Orleans Saints shocked me a little bit. I mean, look, winning on the road in the NFL when you're a 5.5 point dog against a team in Carolina who've been playing well. I mean, this was a team in Carolina that going on the road and won in Green Bay. They were at home. They've got 5 wins. This was a team that, you thought, okay, they're figuring some things out while the Saints are still in this transition. But yet Tyler Shuck did something uh, uh, that Spencer Rattler could not do. He won a game his first year as his quarterback. It took Rattler into his second season. And Tyler Shuck did a lot of good things to give give the Saints pause to think.
Yeah, he really did. And of course, they got an open date now, so they can feel happy for a couple of weeks. Coming off the road victory, as you point out, winning in the NFL is tough. Winning on a road in the NFL is even tougher. But Shuck had good numbers. I mean, Carolina's not world beaters, but they were above 500 when the Saints played them. So we'll see how it goes. And the Falcons aren't exactly world beaters, so I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Saints. I got to feel good about getting that road win and the performance of Tyler Shuck. Olave did some good things as well, so we'll see.
The NFL, I think this year is very much going to be an interesting run to the Super Bowl because I think it's anybody's game in both leagues.
Yeah.
I think it's clear to say Seattle and the Rams look to be the best teams in the NFC at the moment. But in the AFC, it is completely wide open. You got the Broncos and the Patriots are both 8-2. I don't think anyone's necessarily scared of the Broncos and the Patriots. You got the Buffalo Bills get beat by the Dolphins handily. The Dolphins are about to fire their coach. I mean, and your blue bloods, the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills are beatable. And so it's really going to be a very interesting postseason. To see what happened. Did you see where Air Force One flew over the Commanders game? So you
Yeah.
have the honorary flyover. They flew Air Force One over the stadium. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was anytime you see that, or anytime these jets fly over the stadiums, and it's happened at LSU. I just think that's so cool. I remember reading that one time that the Jets flew over uh, Tiger Stadium, and they left San Antonio like 20 minutes before. Their takeoff time was 20 minutes before they went over the top of Tiger Stadium from San Antonio. They're not far from the Seguin River Masters. I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. But that's just unbelievable to see that. And then when it's Air Force One, I mean, that's a special thing. They even joined the announcers in the commentators booth. I've
Yeah.
had a few people join me at Rougarou games, but not the president of the United States.
And so speaking of the Commanders, the word came out over the weekend that Trump wants them to name the new stadium they're building after him because without his involvement and help, it would not have gotten done. That's the most Trump thing ever, right? To say, I want the stadium named after me, and we'll see if it gets done. That would
Well,
be interesting.
he might, if you look up the word vein in Webster's Fifth Dictionary, his picture might be there, right? I mean, that might be the ultimate. You got Trump wine, Trump watches, Trump shot glasses, whiskey glasses. I mean, he's unique. We'll leave it at that.
Yep. And I've played Trump Doral many times. We'll be playing it in December with a couple of Louis and a couple buddies as we do our little annual golf trip over there. Trump Doral, which
When's
right
that?
there by the
December?
Miami airport,
I played at Doral, but what's the December? I
home
played
of
the
the Blue
Doral.
Monster.
Yeah, I played the blue course a long time
Hmm.
ago. Before,
Hmm.
so I might have to find a way to Miami that week. You got to
There
give me
you
the
go.
date if y'all haven't opened.
So Brian Kelly, BK, not a report comes out that Brian Kelly has not accepted the $25 million lump sum settlement that was offered to him by Scott Woodward when they let him go. They also subsequently raised it to 30 million over 2 payments. And that has been rejected. His attorneys are representation is saying by the end of today, Brian Kelly does not have some sort of doesn't have a plan for getting his $54 million he's owed. That they will be pursuing legal recourse. So this is about to get really interesting, Tommy, because everyone was under the belief that they had used some leverage to get Brian Kelly to go lower on his $54 million buyout, and that seems to not be the case. They may have proposed it, they may have threatened it, but it was not accepted by Brian Kelly. And it seems to me he's willing to now go fight this in court. And so I'm really curious to see what transpires and what the LSU decides to do because, again, I find it impossible for this institution and this fan base to have $54 million to pay Brian Kelly to go away. I don't know where if they do, they're going to strain and hamper themselves with everything else that they want to do. And so this is a big thing here. They better think legally. I would love to know if they really believe they have cause, and supposedly there's a moral clause in the contract that they feel they've got leverage on, and obviously Brian Kelly's saying, I don't care what you think about that moral clause. Because we're going after it. And the moral clause that I believe that they're going to put into effect is probably one of the worst kept secrets in Baton Rouge, including with Brian Kelly's wife. So he may be like, you know what, my wife already knows about a potential moral clause, and so therefore, go for it. We're going to fight you because we feel like, what can you do? Embarrass me? We've already been embarrassed, and we want the money.
Well,
So we'll see.
well, as a friend of mine down in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, said a contract's a contract. Now, I've not read it. You haven't read it, but the lawyers have all read it on both ends of the story here. And a contract's a contract, and Brian Kelly wants his money. Now, it doesn't surprise me he wants his money. Might he settle for something less than 54? I don't know, but a contract's a contract. It's going to be interesting. I agree with you. $54 million will be a bump in the road that'll hurt LSU for a while.
Yeah, just really, I don't know what the language of that moral clause looks like. That to me, that's the whole kit and caboodle here. By the way, if you're an old timer basketball fan, Lenny Wilkens passed away at 88 years old. Guy was a Hall of Famer, played 15 years in the NBA, 9-time All-Star, and then went on to be a really good coach and a good broadcaster as well. Won a championship as an NBA coach in '79 with the Supersonics, and then was the coach of the year in the '80s one year, and then did it. Was a heck of a broadcaster as well. Good dude, Lenny Wilkens, 88.
Doesn't he have the most wins ever by an NBA coach? I think
Yeah, right up
in
there.
part due
Yeah.
to longevity, but he's up there. Speaking of basketball, big one tonight at the PMAC. LSU hosts UNO, who surprised TCU on the road last week. The UNO program apparently has a little bit life down there in privateer country, and the LSU men crushed an inferior opponent last week. So big one in the PMAC tonight, Tigers and Privateers.
Yeah, and speaking of privateers, they had a little controversy. 3 former UNO players that are elsewhere been banned from playing due to point shaving.
Yeah, they underperformed some over-under numbers and trying to get a few extra dollars into their pocket. And they and some players from other teams around the country were part of an investigation, and they'll never play NCAA basketball again.
And a big story in major leagues. Tell us about that one.
A reliever for the Guardians, Emmanuel Clase.
Who's a good one.
Well, he's a good one. Big guy, throws hard, comes in, pounds a strike zone, gets you to 3 outs or maybe a little more than 3 outs. He was caught involved in a gambling ring where he was rigging pitches. Okay. A basketball player can rig how many points he might score or not, but he was rigging pitches. He was supposed to throw 9 certain pitches on a certain count as a ball. Okay. And he threw them. Some of them were like 52 footers. And one of them was swung and missed. That batter chased a bad pitch. So he was picking up an extra 12 grand approximately. That's what the report says. Ronnie, he's got a $38 million contract. He's now banned forever from baseball. And he gave away a $38 million contract for 12 grand. He could have bet against the Pelicans and picked up 12 grand maybe. But what a bad decision. And there's another reliever for the Guardians, Ortiz, also involved, but I don't think it's to the degree. But they're both done with the Major League Baseball. And of course, their contract it will be voided. There is a clause there.
Well, I'll tell you, Tommy. that is just the craziest thing ever. And the fact that you can bet online, individual pitches, and is it going to be a ball, is it going to be a strike? These are things that you may not see go away. These may be things that just go away over time because they're just too hard to regulate. And I just just how short sighted and is it that you would go for? I mean, it's crazy. It's just crazy that you would go for this. For this. I mean, like, that you would risk your career to make a few $1,000, you know. It's just incredible.
That's
And I think that if they have the ability to investigate, they're going to find a lot more of these. You
oh
know,
yeah.
and it's very simple to do. And what I was telling Tommy before we went on air was, if you are a sports book, a regulation sports book, and let's say Penn Entertainment, for example, they see on average there's $100 bet total on each individual pitch, and then all of a sudden, bam, there's $3,000 bet on one pitch. That's the ones that you look at, right? Those are the red flags. It's not the ones that's the outliers. It's the spikes that you look for, because those are the ones that people are really making money on. And those are the ones you investigate, and it's very simple. You see who all had the transactions, and you start connecting the dots, and inevitably you follow the trail back to the player.
Well, all of these betting apps, okay, have hundreds of employees that do just what you just said. They track the betting activity on different things, kind of like that LSU Alabama bet before a baseball game a couple of years ago when a guy was hurt and whatever. So they will find the out of the ordinary and investigate it. Okay, out of the ordinary doesn't mean definitely means something's wrong, but it could, and it gets investigated. But as the whole sports world has embraced all of this gambling, I mean, I can remember when they said, there'll never be an NFL team in Las Vegas. There'll never be an NHL team or a baseball team. Well, guess what? It's all baseball going to be there in a couple of years. It's all there now. So because of the dollars they make, I mean, we saw the NBA was what $50 million spent online in-game ads during NBA games. I mean, because they're making money. And so you have to know that problems like this are going to occur. It's like when they put the speed limit on the interstate, there are people who go faster than the speed limit. Well, you got all this gambling. There are people who aren't supposed to be gambling, and they're going to. It's mind-boggling, but it's not going away. It is not going. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. It's not going away.
And lastly, Paul Tagliabue passed away, the former NFL commissioner from '89 to '06. He was the commissioner of the NFL, and Paul Tagliabue played a huge role in the New Orleans Saints staying in the city after Katrina.
Yeah, Tom Benson talked about or looked into moving the Saints out of New Orleans, and Tagliabue, who, all reports say he's a pretty good commissioner, but he played, as you said, a big role in making sure he wanted to keep the NFL in New Orleans. Might have been because of the Super Bowls. We know that story, but 84 years old, his family announced that he passed away. So he does have a link to the New Orleans Saints franchise.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was definitely Paul Tagliabue. For those behind the scenes that know the story, it was Paul Tagliabue who said, "We are not moving the Saints out of New Orleans," and there's no question about it that Tom Benson wanted to go to San Antonio or elsewhere, and and so regardless of what the commissioner job of any league where you have strikes or you have price increases, it's not going to be a very popular guy, but this is a case where Tom Benson gets credit for keeping the Saints in New Orleans, and of course that leading to Drew Brees and Sean Payton and the Super Bowl and all that. And so Tom Benson is a beloved figure because of that. None of that would have happened without Paul Tagliabue. So definitely thank him with a little quick prayer today.
Some people might not remember this, but the Saints played a football game in Tiger Stadium at LSU. And I remember reading
few games.
Yeah, that they were ripping Tom Benson when he was walking up and down one of the concourses or whatever about the Saints leaving, et cetera. But because he from San Antonio, that was one of the thoughts that was flying around. But of course, so they stayed in New Orleans, obviously, and then won a Super Bowl a couple of years later.
All right, TK, tell us about what's going on over at Court Street Cafe. And a reminder, this Saturday we'll be on 9:45 to 11:45 on Sports Shorts Radio over at the Bruley Walk-Ons. But what about over in Port Allen today?
Well, Port Allen, Court Street Cafe, breakfast, lunch, dinner every day. Red beans and rice for lunch today. They're excellent. They got dinner specials of the week, drink specials, lunch specials. Saturday night's a big steak night where you can get the filet or the ribeye and all the trimmings and certain good pricing on wine. That's every Saturday night. They got the Sunday brunch, which is really good, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on a Sunday. The mimosas are flowing. Get out here and get you a great brunch, great breakfast, lunch, whatever you want to do. Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Jason and the staff do a super job. Hit them up on Facebook and Instagram, and you'll be able to keep up with everything. Hey, like and share this show, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or X. It really helps us out. If you like and share this show, your homework assignment, tell some folks about Sports Shorts Daily. We'll be back Wednesday morning from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood in Baton Rouge, where you can actually do your let's tell you this, Tremonti's, order online your turkeys and all the side dishes, tremontis.com. They're not open today, but you can go in online and make your Thanksgiving order at tremontis.com. On behalf of Ronnie Rantz, Jason, and the entire crew here at Court Street Cafe, hope you have a wonderful Monday. Going to be chilly tonight. Stay warm. We'll talk to you again soon.